Welcome to the Beyond Jiu-Jitsu podcast. I'm your co-host, Kieren, joined by the one, the only, Adam Childs.
Yeah, that's me. Hey guys, what's up? Adam Childs here with my button pusher man, Kieren Lefebvre.
Button monkey. Boom, boom.
Episode 130. As you guys know by now, every 10 episodes, we do our Ask a Black Belt episode, which is just
11.
called Ask a Black Belt. But
yeah, Ask a Black Belt Q&A. Number 11.
Number 11.
Number 11.
Number 11. Holy shit, look at us go.
It's crazy.
Yeah, obviously they didn't come out. We didn't do them every 10 episodes. We had some, mini milestone episodes and whatever. But it's not just questions for me. That's just the name of the episode. Questions for Kieren as well, because he knows some things. Enough things that fit on one hand.
Yeah, at least one hand.
Yeah.
Because Ask a Blue Belt didn't have the same ring to it.
And I mean, when we started, you were a white belt.
That is true. Yeah.
Ask a white belt.
Speaking
I
of.
had, hey, hang on. Can you turn me up a bit, bro? My headphones up. Turn my headphones up.
Yep.
Yeah, that's better.
Wait.
Yeah. Whoa, that's very loud. Turn me down.
Turn me down.
Turn me down. So I don't think we had this conversation like off record. I don't think we've had this conversation at all. I always say like off air, just by default saying that like as if anyway. So I had two different people send me some things regarding changing the artwork.
Oh, we've had a lot, yeah.
I know, yes, supposedly, right? But anyway, there's some like polls that you've created where you just use all your logins to vote for changing it.
Yeah.
So I had two different things get sent through. One was a guy who I asked, because they were ordering a rash guard. And I said, oh, do you think the artwork should be changed? And he essentially said, if Kieren wants it changed to blue, then no, fuck him. Like, leave it. But
that's such a good response.
But if he's kind of like actually doesn't really give a shit and he's like, man, whatever, it can stay white, I don't care. He's like, then you can change it to blue.
Oh, that's so good. That is the perfect mindset to have.
And then another person sent, you might have seen this one because I believe it was sent to our Instagram, I believe from memory. Someone who sent us a whole conversation with chatbot ChatGPT.
I did not see this. No.
So for those who don't know, this newish AI.
Yeah, have you been living under a rock?
Yeah, called
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT, which is essentially, if people remember in the early days, in little air quotes of the internet, chatbot was this sort of website.
Google chatbot. Yeah.
Yeah, you could just like go and chat with this AI.
Yeah.
This is essentially that on steroids. It can write code. It can, it's apparently passed the bar, as in like the legal exam, the bar. Like, we've got a few students at the gym who are teachers at high school, and it's becoming a problem for kids doing essentially just using the chatbot to get their
homework done.
Yeah, and write essays for them. You know. So anyway, so they had sent through a whole conversation that they had with ChatGPT, essentially trying to get ChatGPT on your side of changing the artwork.
Oh my God.
And it didn't.
Oh my, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was all like,
how have I not seen this?
It was all like ChatGPT was all like, oh, well, like it's very common in the entertainment or the creative industry that they'll often take creative liberties and leave certain artworks away to maintain continuity and blah, blah, blah. All these things that...
Who sent this?
I can't remember, bro. It was a while back and it was...
Oh my God.
And it was quite a long... message. It took a while to read the whole conversation.
Oh man, I'm shocked I didn't see this because I love ChatGPT.
Yeah. So you'll have to...
I feel bad.
I mean, you have to have a look afterwards or try to find it later.
For anyone that has sent us a message on Instagram before, sometimes Adam will see it and I don't get the notification. So I won't see it ever until it's kind of weird.
Because we both have access to the Instagram.
Yeah.
Whichever one of us kind of reads the message first, then the other person won't get the notification. So
exactly. So sometimes things get missed. So we never do it on purpose. But
I'm trying to...
But what we never miss is questions submitted to the Q&A episode. So today we are going through...
That's because they come in fucking audio format, bro.
Audio format.
We never miss that shit.
Wow, never miss audio format. So if you want a question on the next episode of the show, it is not too late. You can... Well, it's too late for this one.
Yeah.
But
unless one of the listeners happens to have my phone number and calls me right now randomly.
Or if they submit it to the inbox, I'm gonna update the inbox at the end, see if we get any last minute questions. That would be interesting. But if you want to submit a question to the show, you can do so via the link in our bio. It's submit a question. Click that bad boy, record a message straight from your phone, and we will get it in our ears.
Oh yeah, and then we'll play it on the show so you can have it in your ears. I don't know, man. It might have been on my Instagram anyway. I can't remember where it was.
One of the first things I did with ChatGPT, I shit you not, was got it to write a poem, and the poem was the poem. The poem was my feelings for you. No, the poem was talking about Chad, the white belt, getting smashed by a blue belt named Kieren.
Oh, did you? Oh,
yeah. Sick. It was so good. And I sent it to Chad. I'm like, bro, it was actually really, really funny. But anyway, without further preamble, without further ado, let's get into the first question.
Let's go.
First question is from...
Wait, do we want to do this first?
Oh, yes. A quick shout out to our latest Patreon and you. Thank you so much for becoming a Patreon.
Thank you for joining.
And let's go. First question from Aaron.
A few weeks out from episode 130, the next series of Ask a Black Belt. Thought I'd drop you a line with this one. Curious about when is the onus upon you to move when in an advantageous position? Let's say somebody is, maybe you're in turtle, they've got your back, they're not really threatening with anything, but you're not in a great position. At what point would you say the onus is upon you to move rather than the other person who's in a better position? A lot of coaches will start saying to you, have to move. I know, Kieren, you've spoken about you don't want to be stationary in your jiu-jitsu this year, so I'm definitely taking that on board. But sometimes if you feel safe and you don't want to put yourself in further danger, I'm very curious on your thoughts as to when it's your chance to move or your onus to move as opposed to the attacking player. Always love your perspective. Thanks again, dudes.
Epic. Awesome question, Aaron.
Yeah, good question. I'll start it off with how I answer most questions. It depends.
You bastard. I wish I had a cup of water. No.
Yeah. But yeah, it does depend, what are the circumstances. So if we just say, I often, whenever I explain something or teach something, I'll always explain it as if you were reading it out of a textbook, or as if someone said to you, like, gun to your head, describe this in one sentence or whatever. Obviously, they're more sort of guidelines, and you can really color outside the lines and always bend the rules and whatever, but you need to understand the rules to bend them. So if I just had one sentence to answer this question, it would essentially be answered, well, the obligation is always on the person attacking. The obligation is always on the person in the better position to attack, and they're the ones who are going to get stalling penalties. Mm-hmm. If I had to answer it in one sentence, however, it's not as clear as that. If we look at the complete opposite end of the spectrum and say, well, let's look at the Who's Next finale, which was Isaac Mitchell and what's his name, Kyle? Was it Kyle Chambers? Is that his name?
Yep.
No time limit, no points, submission only. Well, then, there's no pressure on anyone to do anything. You could stay there as long as you want, right? It doesn't really matter. So it depends. Are we looking at regular points competition? Are we looking at some no time limit, submission only thing? Are we looking at training? If we're just looking at training, then my advice is, when should you move when you're the person in the bad position? Well, pretty much straight away. I always say to my students that, if I'm watching a couple of students roll and I see one person, let's say, mount on the bottom, okay, and they make it to the end of the round, but they didn't get submitted. They go, oh, I'm that blue belt rolling with that purple belt, but I didn't get submitted. But you didn't fucking try to do anything. You just hunkered down and did absolutely nothing. Or I look at that blue belt training with the purple belt who tried to escape mount but got submitted. I'm more impressed with what the latter did. it's training. Like you got to try, and I would prefer to see you try to escape and fail so you can fix a problem and get better at it than just be like, I hate people that think not getting submitted is a victory. You know, so
definitely.
Then if we go back to looking at competition, well, it also depends. Are you down on points and there's a minute left? So you have to get out and score, otherwise you're going to lose the match. Are you up on points and there's only 30 seconds left, you know, and you just kind of not, you know, I don't want to say stall, but you don't have an obligation on you. As the person, let's say, mount on the bottom, there is no, from a rule point of view, no obligation for you to do anything, really.
Exactly.
Right? So if I was up on points in a comp but then I managed to get mounted, but I'm still up on points and there's 30 seconds left, I'm not really going to take an unnecessary risk to try escape mount and potentially get armbarred or get my back taken or whatever. Like I don't have to, like that's just, for me, that's not stalling. That's just being intelligently strategic, or not even strategic. It's just understanding very basic rules of the sport that you're competing in.
Yeah.
Obviously, if there was no time limit, or obviously if there was still 4 minutes left in the match, I'm not going to sit there, mount on the bottom and stall out 4 minutes, right? In terms of when would the person in the bad position start getting penalized for stalling, that question I'm not exactly sure, because IBJJF likes to change their rules every fortnight. Yeah, or maybe you can't. I'm not really sure.
Hypothetically, right, if you're in a bad position, how can you stall?
Well, think about it like this. Sometimes you might be stuck in a position that you can't. Let's imagine a position where it's considered neutral. Let's say like close guard, right? Maybe you're in someone's close guard. It's considered a neutral position. However, the obligation is still on the person on top to progress.
Right.
But maybe you're trying your hardest to get out of your close guard and you can't, and the person on the bottom is not doing anything other than keeping you in close guard. They haven't tried a single sweep or submission. Or let's say maybe you're in someone's half guard and you've got a crossface and everything, but they've put you in a lockdown that you can't manage to undo and progress. And you're like, and they're not doing anything other than keeping you in a lockdown.
I've seen that.
And you're like, and you almost start like looking around being like, I'm trying here. I can't get out of this position, and he's not doing So I actually don't know the answer to that question.
So I saw this exact scenario play out in a comp that I was at recently. It wasn't my match, but I was watching this match, and it was blue belt division. And the position was a body lock in no-gi, and the person on top had zero interest in progressing. They were up on an advantage. Didn't do shit. Just held him there, right? The person on the bottom also didn't do shit. Wasn't trying to escape. Wasn't really trying to do anything. They were just exhausted, just sort of laying there, like, you know, fucking around with their head a little bit, but not really doing anything. And they both got penalized.
Yeah. I mean, it's not uncommon to see both parties get penalized.
Yeah. They were just resting. They're just having a cuddle.
Oh, I do like a good cuddle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. You know, Aaron, really depends on what are the circumstances that we're answering the question. Let's take it to what 99% of your jiu-jitsu time is.
Training.
And that's training, right? Even for the most active competitor, you spend more time training than you do competing. So the majority of your jiu-jitsu is in the gym training. When should the person in the bad position, when should it be on them to move? I mean, doesn't matter what position you're in, you have an objective, and that is to submit your opponent, right? That's the overall objective. So it doesn't matter what position you're in. I'm not saying be mount on the bottom and go for a submission, but like, you know, your objective, it's to submit them. So if you have to escape mount in order to do that, which you do, right? Short of some freaky Ezekiel. Craig Jones, no-gi Ezekiel, right? But people know what I mean. Then the pressure, in my opinion, the pressure is equally on both parties to progress. But I do understand your question, Aaron. Like I said at the start, if it was just one sentence in a textbook, it's always on the person attacking in the good position from a rule perspective. They have to progress, and the person who's defending doesn't have to.
What do you say for example, you're rolling with a higher belt, and maybe they have a weight advantage on you, or it doesn't really matter, you're rolling with a higher belt. And maybe you're a handful for this high belt, and they get you in like side control or something, and they just hold you there. and see how long they can hold you. And there's like 3 minutes left on the clock, and all they're doing is they're not progressing, they're not going for anything, they're just death gripping you.
Is this you talking about our roll or something?
No.
Okay. Wait,
does it feel like I'm describing our role?
It does.
Does
but
the
I don't
shoe
recall.
fit, Adam?
It does sound like that, but I don't recall this happening.
No, it didn't. I'm not talking about you.
That sounds like something I'll do. To be fair, at the moment, for anyone who has forgotten, or when you were a listener, I had knee surgery 2 months ago now, and it's still, I don't like it hurts to have my knee on the mat. So if I get to side control, I do kind of just lay there because I can't really be on my knees. I can't switch from one side control to the other without banging my knee into the mat. I can't do knee on belly. I don't really want to, excuse me, I don't really want to go to mounts because then I'm on my knees. So I definitely, at the moment, if I get side control, I'm a little bit like, oh, what do I do now? I can't really, I'll just lay here. But yeah, that's not a bad question. That's definitely happened to me in training for sure. And sometimes, I would argue that majority of the time, if you're against someone, they don't even have to be better than you and heavier than you, even someone the same weight and similar skill. If they get to side control and all they want to do is keep you there, it's actually very difficult to escape. It's usually when people start attacking, even if they're really good at their attacks, you can't have it all. You can't, what's the expression? Have your cake and eat it too. You have to trade off some level of control for, the mobility that you want to move, towards whatever arm, or you've got to give up control of one arm to gain more control of the other arm because that's the one you want to attack or something. It's always a trade-off. So a lot of the time, that's when your opportunities for escape happen. So if someone really is just, side control and they have no objective other than holding you down, man, it's fucking really, really hard to get out in my experience and my opinion.
Yep.
But
when you do get out, the onus is on you to put as much smash on as punishment as you can.
That's right. Yeah. That's not necessarily a position that gets me angry. I only really have one position that makes me go sort of illogically rage mode, which I just really want to murder someone.
Deep half.
No, I actually don't have a problem with deep half.
I know you don't. I do.
Yeah. That's your position at the moment that frustrates you. Yep. It just takes me longer to pass deep half than another half guard. But I've spent so much time in deep half on top that
I've spent a lot too, but I haven't cracked it yet. It
doesn't faze me. I feel pretty comfortable there. In saying that, obviously, if I were to roll with Bernardo, I'm going to get swept out the wazoo instantly, right? But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
What was I saying?
You were saying position that frustrates you illogically.
Oh yeah, man. The one that makes me go crazy is when side control with someone and I still have my arm between their legs and they push my head between their legs to do that dumbass reverse triangle that never locks in and is just across your face.
And there's zero choking pressure. It just is uncomfortable.
I'm not talking about the one that Braulio Estima hit on Andre Galvao years ago that was perfectly set up and locked in and it was a setup.
I know exactly.
I'm talking about a beginner who's just there, I'll do this to get out of psych. Bro, I'm going to fuck you up when I get my head out. I don't care. I don't care what belt you are. Yeah, that position makes me really illogically angry.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever, I think maybe once in my entire career, I've had someone do it and it's actually been a choke and locked. It's always just you squeezing my head, it's different to getting choked across the face from the back where it's well, man, you're tucking your chin, you're putting your face in the way of your neck. I don't want your face, but.
And you can still choke.
Yeah, and you can still choke them, right, across the face anyway. I did it to Chad last night, actually.
Yeah, I do it to him all the time.
Yeah, I know. But, it's just like you just squeezing my head for nothing. I'm going to fucking smash you.
I'm going to put you there just to get some smash.
Makes me so angry. Anyway, Aaron, I know that's you've listened long enough. It's always going to be a ramble in our answers. But, yeah, man, if we're talking about training, just always, you're not going to get better. unless you're training for a no time limit submission only match where your entire strategy is going for 12 hours and having the other guy give up because he's bored.
Yeah.
And this whole but at least I didn't get submitted, the same way that a lot of the times your escapes become possible or appear as the person begins to attack. It works the other way around as well. A lot of the time your attacking opportunities present themselves as the person's moving, trying to create space to move. 100%. So, it's no different to a lot of other positions in jiu-jitsu where, I know that you're trying to do this, but that I know that, it's like most positions. Oh, when they do this, you're going to do this. But when they do that, you're going to do that, And
Isn't Hodger Gracie famous for saying, how can you take someone's back from mount if you never let them move? Or something along those lines?
That was Marcelo.
Oh, Marcelo,
that,
right.
yeah, because Hodger, he'll take mount over the back. Right. But Marcelo exactly was like, well, how can I, for those who don't know, very well known for, taking people's back and having amazing finishes from the back and back control. But yeah, in an interview, years and years and years ago, he said something along the lines of how can you be expected to take someone's back if you don't let them give it to you? If you don't let them turn and take their back off the mat, how can you take their back?
Yeah, exactly.
Remember, this was before the days of bearing bolos, where nowadays you can, force someone's back off the mat with crab ride and all this fancy stuff. But I think the point still stands.
Okay. Next question is from Lewis.
Hey, Kieren and Adam. I've been training for about 11 months now, but I feel like I'm improving, but I'm only able to, ever submit or positionally beat the less experienced people in my gym. I continuously struggle to submit or sometimes even be positionally dominant against the more experienced guys, and it feels like something I can never catch up and reach their level even though I'm improving. Have you guys ever experienced this feeling? How did you overcome it? Thank you.
All right, Lewis, how do we tackle this one? So the people that are more experienced than you, first we got to ask, well, how much more experienced, okay? So obviously things start to plateau, like anything in life, any new skill that you're trying to acquire, there's always beginner gains. The biggest improvement is at the beginning because you go from, 0% competency to 10%, 20%, 30%, really quickly. But then obviously the closer you get to 100%, things start to flatten out and plateau and, the gains become much more difficult and further spaced out. So yes, you're 9 months, right? Let's just call it a year. How much more experienced are these people? Are they just 1 or 2 months more experienced? Because I remember when I was a white belt or, even an early blue belt, it was kind of the gauge of if someone was better than you or you were better than them, the only metric you had was the amount of time they'd been training for. Because when you've been training for 6 months, right, and someone else has been training for a year, well, obviously, if you have 2 black belts talking to each other and one's trained for 6 months longer than the other one, 6 months is negligible, right? If you're talking at a career that's spanned over a decade or more and people have multiple injuries, time on and off the mat, 6 months is nothing. But if you're looking at 2 white belts and they both train the same amount, as in whatever it is they do, 2-3 classes a week, one's trained for 6 months, one's trained for 12 months, well, one has literally trained twice as long as the other one. Right? It is no different to why you see huge progression in fucking babies and toddlers, because percentage-wise, a month for a 3-month-old baby is a fucking third of their life, So obviously you see huge gains when proportionate to how long they've been alive or how long you've trained.
Get them baby gains.
Get those baby gains, yo. So of course you're still in that let's call the first year of jiu-jitsu your beginner gains, just for argument's sake. You're still in a beginner gains phase. So these more experienced people, if they've been training 1 month longer than you, 2 months longer than you, then okay, we could talk about some of the more finer points, okay, well, are you doing more classes than them? if you're doing the same amount of classes, then in theory, they will continue to stay 1 month, 2 months ahead of you. Like if you want to catch them, you need to do more than them, right? I mean, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. If these more experienced people than you have been training for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, man, it could be years before you catch them or start giving them a hard time, right? Like experience goes a long way in jiu-jitsu, I reckon. So, you know, it's hard to give you a concrete answer, but I remember when I was a white belt, the first gym that I trained at was in Canada, and I remember looking at this blue belt, and he was like, whatever it was, a 2-stripe or 4-stripe blue belt or something. And he was like the top dude in the gym because it was a small gym. It wasn't like a gym full of black belts and brown belts and purple belts. It was like a small, you know, sort of gym. So he was like the top dude in the gym, won all the competitions, everything. And I remember, and you know, he was similar size to me and everything. And I remember looking up to him, Curtis was his name, and thinking, how is it ever possible to get that good? You know, like it just made no sense. You know, whenever I rolled with him, I was like, I can't do anything. Like how, like it's impossible. I'll never be that good. And I'm like referring to a blue belt, not like a world champion black belt going, I'll never be able to do that. It's just, you know, no dig at Curtis. Curtis was very good and he continued to train. I believe, you know, he's a black belt now and everything. But, you know, I was just talking about just a blue belt.
Yep.
And I was still lost for words at how you could get that good.
Yep.
You can get that good.
Fucking levels, man.
Yeah, you don't even have to go on to become one of the greatest in the world to get as good as a competent blue belt. So, you know, if you really want to catch these people, let me give you some hopefully tangible advice so you don't just walk away from this episode going, well, that fucking didn't help, right? So, yeah, if, for argument's sake, if they are years more experienced than you, then just keep chipping away. You got years to go and you'll catch them, right? Or because even if you've been training for a year, they've been training for 5 years, and you go, well, you know, how many classes do I have to do to catch up to the 4 years more experience they have? You don't necessarily, because remember, like I said, it starts to plateau, right? So, you know, maybe by the time you've been training for 5 years and they've been training for 9, you know, on the 0% to 100% scale, you're not going to be that far behind. But at the moment, you're like, you know, 30% behind, right? Which is a huge chunk. So if they're years more experienced than you, Lewis, then just keep chipping away. If they're, you know, been training for 1 month, 2 months longer than you, well, then ask yourself, if they're doing 2 classes a week, but you're also only doing 2 classes a week, I mean, like you're going to stay behind to some extent. Like you got to, you got to put in more work. And I went through this. I in the sense that I caught in little air quotes a lot of people who were more experienced and better than me, because, you know, when I started, and almost from day one though, to be honest, I did pretty much like devote everything to it. For those who don't know a huge amount about my background, like when I started jiu-jitsu, I came from other martial arts, and I didn't go to uni. I actually didn't even finish high school in Australia. And I'd looked at universities and TAFE courses, which in Australia, TAFE is like a college system. Sort of education system. And I looked at like multiple courses, and there was nothing I wanted to do with my life. There was nothing that I saw that subject I could see myself doing and be happy. But when I found jiu-jitsu, I pretty instantly realized, oh, actually, like you can have a gym and make money doing this. You know, I mean, of course, we know jiu-jitsu is notorious for not making money, but I was like, this can be at least this direction. So pretty much when I first started training jiu-jitsu, I would train like 4 or 5 times a week or more. And yeah, like I caught a lot of people who were more experienced than me and were higher belts than me or whatever, because, you know, they trained once or twice a week, and I was there doing 5 days a week, but I would do like sort of like 8-10 classes a week, you know, so I'll do multiple classes a day, and I caught up to them, you know, and then they're submitting questions to the podcast being like, I'm a blue belt, why do I keep losing to this 2-stripe white belt? right? I mean, so
I have to ask something here. I've been sort of hanging on to this question.
I'm not changing the artwork, bro. Fuck.
No, I have a question here. Like, I'm nitpicking, but when it comes to the term experience, what would you consider to be who would have more experience in jiu-jitsu? A blue belt that from day one has trained an average of 8 sessions per week, or that purple belt that has been training for 5 years, averages 1.5 to 2 sessions per week for that 5 years. Simple math would state that the blue belt has more sessions.
Yeah.
Who has more experience? Who has more hours on the mat?
Yeah, I think like you said, it's nitpicking, it's splitting hairs, because you could argue that the blue belt has more experience because they have more mat time, but you could argue that the purple belt has more experience because it's spanned a longer time, right? So the chances are the purple belt, because their time on the mat, even though they've done less hours on the mat, it's been over a greater period of time. So you could argue that they're more experienced because they've seen more jiu-jitsu trends come and go than you. They've probably trained with multiple different people. Then, like as a whole, they probably trained with 100 different persons, but you might have only trained with 50 because it's in a more
condensed time
frame. So I think that's splitting hairs. Like I think it's.
I'm not sure. I'm not sold. I'm not sold.
I know, because you want me to say the blue belt's more experienced.
Well,
right?
I think that they are, because depending on the blue belt, but maybe this is me being an arrogant piece of shit, but I played that game that you were talking about where you were like, hey, I'm trying to catch this person, right? In your gym.
Yeah.
I've played that game. I've been playing it for years. And in my experience playing that game, once you rack up more mat time, most of the time, depending on who you're comparing yourself to, you become more competent in certain areas, right?
Yeah, but I
can see you squirming. This is great.
I mean, like anything in life, it can only really be explained with an analogy.
Oh, please.
So,
please hit me.
Like, let's say, for example, if we look at surfing, so maybe you've spent more time in the water in a more condensed time frame than this other person who's been doing it for longer in terms of years. You could argue that they're more experienced because, you've been in the water for more in a condensed time, but every year, like the swell's different. So they've had more experience over a bigger chunk of time. So, the waves and the swell and what you had to deal with in the winter of, the surf season of 2014 is completely different to the surf season of, 2020 and 2021, where you put all your hours in. But I got to experience the swell in 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. Like I got to experience multiple different swell conditions, right? Whereas you spent more time in the water, but you were kind of exposed to very similar. Less variables, right? Yeah. So, it's obviously not the perfect analogy, because if both people are in the same gym and they don't visit other but you know what I mean? Like I'm just saying that over a bigger period of time. And I'm not siding with the purple belt. Calm down, Kieren.
I'm not.
I'm just saying that we're splitting hairs, and you can. The only reason I'm arguing for the purple belt is because you're arguing for the blue belt.
Yeah. But I think that another argument can be made for the purple belt, to expand upon that. And because jiu-jitsu is, this argument could go both ways, but because jiu-jitsu is a very physical endeavor, right? Yeah, there's a lot of mental side to it. It's very, it can be a very intellectual sport, but there's a certain thing to be said about body coordination, balance, and motor control, right? And that takes longer to develop. It takes longer for your brain to develop those neuron connections, those motor neuron connections, to master your movements. Yes, it can be done through repetition and more time. Obviously, that's the best way to do it. But I'm not sure about the exact science of this, but you could make an argument that by expanding your jiu-jitsu out over a longer time period, your body has more time to adapt. So you'll be more efficient than someone who has crammed those hours into a shorter time span.
Yeah. And
I don't agree with it, but that argument could be made.
Like it's also just the variables, right? So who's more experienced in this scenario. Paul Lewis is like, you guys
Spent
went so
this is not
far
my
off from my
question.
question. Who's more experienced in this scenario? You've had 100 days in the water.
Mm-hmm. Back surfing. Okay. Yep.
Yep. Every one of those days
Yep.
is surfing at whatever, let's say Pipeline. Every one of those 100 days. I've had 20 days of surfing, but I've surfed Pipeline, Chopu, Snapper Rock, Shipwrecks.
That's some hectic places to surf of 20 days.
Okay, or let's put it this way. Let's go back to jiu-jitsu.
Yes, please.
Right? You've been doing whatever it is, like 10 sessions a week, every week, blah, blah, blah. And you've like, let's just add another variable in.
Okay.
There's the blue belt and the purple belt that we've been talking about.
Yep.
And we're talking about mat time.
Yep.
What if we just add one more variable?
Okay.
Who's more experienced now? The blue belt, who's done no competitions, and the purple belt, who's done 10. Who's more experienced now?
Well, what we could do is we could come up with a formula and apply 1 hour in competition to equal X amount of hours in training. Therefore, and I'll throw another one for you. This one is pretty easy, but another variable, right? Who's more experienced? The blue belt that has spent 100 hours on the mats, but all of those 100 hours have been the best team in the world, or the purple belt who's had 100 hours spread across 5 years. And those 100 hours have been floating from gym to gym.
Yeah, or maybe they've had 500 hours, but it's at some dog shit gym. Like,
with a big dojo.
Yeah, there's just too many variables.
So
who
has more experience?
Yeah. But if the argument is time versus mat time, I don't know, bro. Fuck, who cares? I mean, evidently you, but
no, it doesn't matter. We'll just sort it out on the mats, bro.
Yeah,
I'm more experienced if I win, right?
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Well, again, that doesn't even matter because other variables. You know, if we're talking about experience versus actually who would win in a role, well, it's completely irrelevant because what are the ages? What are the physical attributes?
Right.
You know, there's so many different variables. So does it really matter at the end of the day? But I suppose back to Lewis's question when he was talking about, you know, how can he catch people that are more experienced? What I would do is set goals for yourself, target. This is what I did, and this is what you would advise me to do, is essentially target people in the gym. I want to achieve this goal with this training partner.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that for years, and it helps so much.
Yeah, so one of these guys, Lewis, that you're struggling with, instead of give yourself a more specific goal. So rather than saying, okay, maybe some of them you can kind of get the better of them, but you can't submit them, so your goal's submitting them.
Yep.
But let's say there might be one dude who like you just, no matter what, like maybe you can submit him if you start with him in your closed guard, for example, but maybe you can never pass him or make that with that guy, your goal is passing him. Look at your training partners as a tool to improve your jiu-jitsu and look at them like exercises in a gym. So, you know, Billy Bob over there, he's your deadlift, and you've got a goal of being able to deadlift, you know.
Billy Bob,
deadlift 120 kilos or whatever it is. And, you know, Sean over there, he's your chin-ups, and you've got a goal of being able to do, you know, 10 chin-ups or whatever it is. Like, you know, so Billy Bob, you're passing his guard. You know, Sean over there, you want to be able to
10 times.
Yeah. You want to be able to, you know, sweep him, or you want to be able to take his back. Like, set specific goals for these individuals that you're struggling to catch, right? And that's a good tangible goal, and it's also then a good metric you can use for your progression, because obviously these guys are progressing as well. You feel like you're getting better, they're getting better too, unless they're not training, but obviously they are, otherwise you wouldn't be training with them. So, you know, it's a metric that you can use. So you might feel like, man, I just can't catch these guys. But then if you stop and look and you go, oh no, but hang on. No, I took Sean's back. That was like, you know, so I am getting better. I'm not, you know, I passed Billy Bob. Okay. Like he regarded and then submitted me, but like previously I couldn't pass him. Like I am chipping away and I am catching them.
100%. I like it.
But yeah, you know, if we've taken away anything from this, Kieren is more experienced.
Then
just anyone.
Just you.
It's just life. Just life. Yeah.
Fucking everyone. I'm very experienced, guys, and very experienced podcaster. Next question from Ben.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Ben here. the legendary British blue belt. You can check me out. Plugging myself shamelessly.
What a legend.
Ben Does Jiu-Jitsu on YouTube. Anyway, I have a question for you, Kieren, my man. Yeah, we've chatted a bit. You're a legend. Just want to throw that out there. But you sent me a picture. We're on our group chat. You sent a picture of you winning triple gold. And my question for you is, out of that whole tournament and all your matches, what is one moment that stands out for you as being a damn, I can't believe this just happened type of moment? Was it when you hit any particular submission, or what was that moment for you, and how did it feel to get such quite a significant accomplishment in a triple gold? So love you guys, and hope things are good. Peace.
Man, he's plugging for me. I don't even need to plug.
Good question, man. But fucking clean yourself up, bro. Put some clean pants on. Take the poster of Kieren off your wall.
Oh,
no, that was good.
Ben is
good. What a legend.
For those that don't know, a bit of a plug on Ben. Definitely check out Ben Does Jiu-Jitsu on YouTube. Absolute up and coming rising star in the jiu-jitsu world. He is a very good editor. He edits for Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu. He edits for a couple other guys as well that I don't know if I'm at liberty to say, but sure. So he does a lot of work. If chances are your favorite jiu-jitsu YouTuber has had some editing done by Ben. So if you need any editing work, see Ben and check out his channel. He's got some good stuff. So excellent question. I don't even need to plug my my competition prowess. That Ben's doing it for me. Is there a moment that stands out? Yeah, there's one. I have a perfect one for this. So,
and I haven't heard this unless you told me in passing. But
I probably have. So I recently competed at a local comp, and I signed up last minute. I wasn't even going to tell anyone that I was competing, but I had to. It was
on a Saturday. You only told me on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
And the only reason you told me is you needed to
not train.
Justify why you were not training.
I didn't want to cop come on, bro, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I was like, oh shit, I got to tell you. And then I told Aaron because I wanted to roll with him, do some flow rolling, and he wasn't rolling that day anyway. So, and then anyway, blah, blah, blah. So signed up last minute, blah, blah, blah. No one else from our gym went to this comp because it was sort of like flew under the radar. We weren't really plugging it. And not many people at our gym compete all that much.
Soft.
Yeah. So I rocked up. There was, your standard people there that are at every comp, blah, blah, blah. But every time I competed, every time I had a match, I was in 3 divisions. Every time I won, there was silence. Like you could hear a penny drop, bro. Because, it is what it is. Like people are shouting out for their boy that's on the mat. It's like, get him, fucking do this. The coaches are yelling advice and shit. And then, when they would lose, all the teammates just dead silent.
So good.
But it was so fucking satisfying.
Is that the moment?
No,
Okay.
no. I just want to set the stage.
Okay.
I'm leading up to it. So the moment I want to talk about was in the very, very last match of the last division of the day for me. And it was like one of the last matches. So the hall was pretty silent. Most people had left by that stage. There was just people supporting who were still competing. The few people that still had to go. This was no gi absolute division. So at this point, this was the 10th match I'd had for the day. And I was pretty fucking exhausted, but I was like G'ing myself up. This is the last one. I wanted the triple gold. Like I was G'ing myself up, ready to go. And the guy that I was going up against, a young guy who is Chilean and was visiting Australia for whatever, I don't know, he's backpacking or something. Young guy, I think he's like 18 or something like that. Really good. I'd already had a match with him in the gi absolute. So he'd won all the way up to the gi absolute as well. And I won that. Anyway, so we go out and he pretty much pulls guard on me straight away and I'm trying to pass him. Don't have too much left in the tank, but I'm trying to pass him. I think I was up like 2 advantages at this point, but it was pretty even. He had me trapped in, at one point quarter guard on mount, and I couldn't free my leg. I didn't go to take his back. I just wasn't thinking right, blah, blah, blah. And then somehow from like a half guard position, he swept me. I came up straight away, but I consolidated the sweep for like barely 3 seconds. So he was up 2 points. I was up like 2 or 3 advantages, but he got up 2 points. And there was only like a minute left in the match. And I was shitting bricks. I'm like, holy fuck. I've just spent 5 minutes trying to pass this kid. I can't fucking pass him. I've like got nothing left in the gas tank. And now he swept me. Somehow we ended up with me back on the bottom. and he came on top for the sweep, right? So
you're on the bottom.
Yeah, I was on the bottom
swept.
because I got swept. I was on the bottom. Like I said, it was a minute left, and I think it was in my close guard or some shit. I'm like, fuck. Like, what am I going to do from here, man? Like, I'm not really.
This is the worst position ever.
Yeah, this is like because whenever we do that drill, because in the gym we do a drill that simulates the last like minute of a jiu-jitsu match, and it's like pass, sweep, submit. And whenever you're the guard player, like most of the time during that drill,
it's hard.
It's really fucking hard. Like you have to make something happen. And what was I going to do? Open my guard, get up and try and pass him? I hadn't been able to pass him for 5 minutes. How am I going to pass him? Anyway, he had the whole gallery, like half of his gym was there, and they were screaming like, yes, you got him. Just hold it. Don't let him do this. Don't let him do that. They were just fucking going off. There was like over 10 of them just screaming in this empty fucking hall because it was like the only match going on at the time. Anyway, back to the story. So get this right. I was in close guard and I decided for whatever reason, I grabbed his arm and I put him in a Kimura grip. Sorry, not a Kimura, an Americana grip. I was so not even a Kimura, so I couldn't even really finish it. An Americana. So his arm, like imagine his arm is out like a right angle. His fist was up near his head, not the correct way to break it. I was just cranking on it, right? I don't know how the fuck we got there, but I just started like, fuck it, I got to do something. I was desperate. So I started cranking on this Kimura, and it was putting a bit of torque. Obviously, he was never going to tap, but it was putting a bit of torque. And for somehow we sort of fell over. I threw over my leg and took an armbar, and I just fucking ripped on this kid's arm. Like I was trying to break it, right? And I ended up getting the tap with 9 seconds to go. In the last match of the day, 9 fucking seconds, I got the tap. His elbow was a bit sore. I think I hurt his elbow, but I mean, I just had to take it, right? And I got up, smashed the mat, and just was like, yes, like yelled out because I had so much adrenaline because I'd hyped it up. It was the last match of the day. I just had 10 fucking matches. I was exhausted and I won coming down from points in the last 9 seconds to get triple gold. I was like, holy fucking shit. And the silence was deafening.
So good.
His whole team just did not say a word. It was just staring at me as I'm like screaming, like being a fuckhead. But
no, you went. No, that's so good. You sent the video to me and you said, "Oh, I'm, not super stoked with how I behaved with this post-fight celebration." I was like, "It's fine, man. You did nothing. You just gave a scream of yes, like that was it. It wasn't like you were like doing the whole like, chest bump and kissing your fingers
God. Yeah,
and like yes, fingers up to God, or you weren't like pointing at him, being like you suck. Like no, you just gave an emotional shout of like yes, it's fucking fine, and then that was it. And your shout lasted for half a second.
That's the only time I've ever reacted to winning or losing a match. The only time I've ever actually had like an outburst or like some sort of reaction. But it was a big fucking day. And so that moment was holy fucking shit. I cannot believe I clutched.
Yes, so
cannot believe I fucking clutched. Like the belly down armbar, just man. The kid is tough. Like when I versed him in gi, I had him in a bow and arrow, and he nearly went out. He was not tapping. Like his eyes went back in the back of his head, and he was going to take it. You know what I mean? And the same with the armbar. He left it to the very very last second, and his elbow
with the
crunched.
Bow and arrow, he tapped or he went out.
No, he ended up tapping, but his eyes were like rolling back. He was about to go.
Yeah.
So he left it. He's like me in a way, leaves shit to the last minute. But you're competing. But with his arm, I felt it crunch before he tapped. And the tap was a scream. So
9 seconons left, bro. You got to do what you got to do.
9 fucking seconds on the clock. I saw it. I just couldn't believe it. So that was one of the best moments.
So good.
Yeah.
You'll have to make a YouTube video about that whole.
Yeah, I will. The footage is only off my iPhone. I was going to set up my camera, but I decided not to. I just set up like an iPhone resting on like a drink bottle and shit. And, for most of it, the fucking iPhone fell off for one of them.
Over,
So a really good match actually that I had in gi where I've got a one-handed rear naked choke. I had control of his left hand and I had his other leg trapped. Sort of like Gordon Ryan v. Galvao, same sort of position, just crank the one arm. I wanted to get that because it's pretty good.
I missed it, yeah.
Yeah, and I missed that. But that was a really satisfying match. But
man, I think if you're ever going to get like emotional though in a match, it's got to be in the final.
Yeah.
I'm similar. I try to, I don't think I really ever show any emotion unless it's in the final. So like if I'm doing the matches leading up to the final, It
is what it is.
I mean, obviously, if you lose, you typically look a bit devastated. But like, if you win, I'm just kind of like the most emotional thing I'll do is when someone lifts my hand up. Like I might
thumbs
do
up.
like a thumbs up or point the one finger up sort of thing. So you don't just have this gimpy ass looking hand getting raised.
I always leave the gimp and like,
but I usually
shrug.
probably the most emotional I would have gotten was when I won on Subversion. I wasn't even emotional. I was like, yeah, see, job done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's a time, you 10th match of the day, you clutch it in the last 10 seconds, of course. When I've told this story before, when, back when I was a blue belt and I won this comp that paid for my tickets to the US, and I had to fight 2 dudes who I had previously lost to. So, and I remember, when I beat the dude in the final, I had beat him just on points. And I'd felt him like break a little bit, but I remember I saw the clock and there was like still 2 or 3 seconds left, and I already started screaming. I was already like, yes, because what was
verbal
he
tap.
going to do? yeah, that's right, verbal tap. Yeah, but
so I saw recently there was this video that's going around of this. I saw it on Instagram. This young guy, this kids divisions, right, or like pretty young. I don't know, somewhere around 18. And it was in no-gi, and this kid takes the other guy's back, like off an arm drag, back take. It was smooth back take. And he's like, hasn't even really sunk in the choke yet. He's just gotten the back and started to attack the rear naked choke. And he's already screaming. He's already like, yeah, fuck yeah. Like looking at his team and like, fuck yeah, get him. And the guy hasn't even tapped. And before he's even cranking, and then he like sinks it in, he's still like chirping and talking and carrying on like a fucking idiot.
Yeah, that's lame.
Like that is so lame. And I mean,
just super disrespectful.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it takes away from the arm drag back take was fucking beautiful. It was awesome jiu-jitsu. But the fact that this guy acted like a flog, like totally diminishes it. There's no need for that. And again, this is coming from a guy that, I was insecure about, yelling after, my little story there. But still, I think if you're carrying on before you've even tapped your opponent, like all I wanted to happen was the guy to escape and fuck him up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would
just be like, now what, bitch? But
yeah, I remember going and seeing, I can't remember exactly, but one of my students fought this dude at a comp. It was like white belts, I think, or it might have been blue belts. But anyway, just a little local competition, and my student lost to this guy, but this guy was, similar sort of thing, like super disrespectful in the sense that like he was talking shit mid-match or something along those lines, that even the guy's coach, who was obviously there coaching his student, turned to me and was like, bro, I'm so sorry. Like, and then I overheard him ripping into his student about behaving that way, you know.
That's fucked.
Yeah. But anyway, there must be students of Urbith Santos or something.
There needs to be some level of respect. I mean, you don't have to go up and, fucking hug him or whatever, your opponent, but you don't want to be talking shit.
Yeah.
But
Anyway, guys, that episode, we went for longer than we thought. We were only going to get through a few questions, and we thought it'd be a quick, sharp episode. We did have one fourth question, which we're not going to play. It's from one of my students who likes to prank us and send in stupid questions, but I already messaged him and I said, bro, you got to make it a little bit more believable than that. Like he took it. It's like when you try to lie to someone and, be like, you take it way too far. It's not even believable, bro. You needed to tone that question down a little bit.
Just a couple of notches. It was hilarious. We were debating whether or not we should play it just for the comedic relief, but it's too niche. It's too much of an in-joke. So people wouldn't really get it.
Wouldn't be funny unless you know specifically the person who it is. So we're not going to play it. It's slightly funny, but slightly inappropriate as well. But anyway, bro, if you want to prank us, you got to make it a little bit more believable. Yeah. Even if we know it's you, I'm okay with that. You don't have to
let us be able to play it.
Yeah, I mean, you took it a little too far. So next time. Guys, thanks for listening. As always, you know where you can find us on Instagram at BeyondJiu-Jitsu_podcast. If you want to be like and join us as a Patreon, all the links are in the description. Mm-hmm. Next Q&A will obviously be episode 140. And next episode, I believe, I'm looking forward to it because I've kind of semi-convinced Kieren to talk about a more, not controversial subject, but I don't know. I mean,
it is controversial. We're going to take a stance
we're just going to talk about something that some people will agree, some people will disagree. But if you disagree, I mean, hey, that's well within your rights. And
submit a question as to why you disagree. Yeah, okay. Go fuck yourself and submit a question.
Yeah. So we'll be talking about a new sort of
new wave of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
we're not talking about new wave.
And other stuff going on too. You know, last episode we had the guys on from Subversion. Was that last episode? Yeah, the last episode we had the guys on from Subversion. Some things to talk about regarding Subversion coming up March 18th as well, but we'll save that for next episode or the one after. So a few things already stewing away, guys. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on the flip side.